Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Kyle Carroll from MyMMAnews.com and Carroll's Corner MMA podcast. Right now, I just want to do a quick UFC 252 recap because, first of all, the fight card was awesome. I thought from top to bottom, there was a great fight card. A lot of fighters I thought that were going to win, like Jim Miller, fell to guys Pichel, who put on a heck of a performance. And I just thought top to bottom, this fight card was pretty phenomenal. There were great fights, not too many finishes, but the ones that were finishes were pretty strong finishes, and it was fun to watch throughout the whole night. Like I said, great card. Can't reiterate that anymore. But right now, I'm just going to recap the co-main event and main event. First off, we'll start off with the co-main event. You guys, Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera, kind of quiet, kind of did his thing, but got in there and, just kept pushing through the noise where Sugar Sean O'Malley, he's a guy who everyone had the hype train on. Everyone was behind him. He was 12-0, looking to get his 13th victory in the UFC and just continue pushing through. But then during the fight, it looks like he slips and rolls his ankle. Went to the hospital. They really didn't say much what was going on. They said he was getting a CAT scan on his leg. He said it was a leg injury. Megan just said there was something wrong with his leg. So, the thing about it is, between fights, I don't know if you can see behind the commentators, these guys were spraying disinfectant on the canvas after every fight. Now, I'm watching the fight, crushing some delicious wings from Buffalo Wild Wings. No plug right there. They were just delicious. A little Parmesan, Asian zing. That was pretty delicious. Blue cheese. Always blue cheese over ranch. That is not up for discussion. If you go with ranch, you're a terrorist. I don't care what you say. It's blue cheese with wings, no matter what. Blue cheese, people. Blue cheese. Anyway, I digress. But you see him twist his ankle in the recap. I thought right away it was a leg injury, a knee injury, where he might have planted and his knee might have given out. I was like, oh, it might be an ACL tear. It's usually when you step back and forth lateral, you get that knee and the buckles and it gives out, and then you have no support and it just pops out and these guys fall and stuff. But it looked like maybe his calf or something, like from a calf cut or kick, like a calf splice, like something like kick or whatever. Vera says he checked a kick, and that might be it. So he might have had a broken bone or two in his ankle, and he just wasn't feeling it, and it started rolling on him, and he wasn't able to keep his feet because it looked like he was like fooling around. My brother-in-law was like, oh, he's just being cocky and all, and that's what I thought at first because I'm typing away and trying to keep my eyes on the screen while typing, but it's hard to do both at the same time. And first glance, you think he's joking around, but no, he had an injury, and it goes to show he ended up getting finished by Vera. Now, not to take anything from Vera, but Vera beat a guy who's injured. Obviously, he was in that much pain, wasn't able to fight, didn't have his legs under him, and O'Malley wasn't able to continue, and he gets brought to the canvas, and Vera finishes him with some big, heavy shots. You can't take anything from Vera there. He landed some massive shots, but when you're injured like that, it looked like O'Malley already gave up. It really did. His mindset wasn't there. He just kind of laid there and took some heavy shots, wasn't really trying to move once Vera got him on the canvas. So, not to take anything from Vera, but I want to see a rematch right there. I want to see a healthy rematch between the two of them. Now, back to the disinfectant between rounds. They're spraying this stuff. Who knows how slick it is? Because they've only done it on a handful of fights. Is this going to be a problem moving forward because of the COVID? Now, I know they're trying to disinfect and make sure no one's sick and no one gets COVID-19 virus, prevent this pandemic, but being able to keep UFC going during the pandemic. But if a guy's getting injured while they're fighting because they're slipping on this disinfectant on the ground, on the canvas, what is the problem? Why would we continue doing this? I think that's something they're going to have to check out. They're going to have to look into. I don't know how many other people noticed this. Me and my sister both noticed them spraying this stuff. It looks like the same stuff they're using for classrooms to disinfect the the wood and the chairs and the walls and everything else, and they're just spraying that in the canvas. Like, how quick does that dry? How quick is that going to stay moist? Is that going to stay slick? Like, is it going to stay in the bottom of your feet after you get it on there? A lot of questions about that. So I think O'Malley either tore an ACL or he broke his ankle some way from kicking and Vera checked it. But he definitely wasn't able to walk on it after because he kept rolling it and slipping on the canvas. So who knows? I'm curious to see what the diagnosis is of Sean O'Malley, but he's a guy we'll definitely see back. He, obviously when he got hurt, his mentality changed drastically in the fight and Vera pounced on it. But I think we'll see a rematch of that fight as soon as O'Malley's healthy, depending on where the two fighters are. Because Vera was coming off a loss that many think he won, and he believed he won, but the judges had him losing. So you never know where these fighters are going to find themselves. It should be interesting, though, for future down the road type matchup. Then the main event, the trilogy. This was an awesome fight. I don't care what anyone says. This was an awesome fight. And to be honest, I had DC winning this fight from the get-go, from the beginning, before this fight started. He's a guy who, last fight, he felt he didn't come in strong enough, didn't come in prepared enough, didn't train enough. Then he comes into this fight and he says he's prepared 100%. He's ready to go. Now I get he's 41. Stipe Miocic is turning 38 next week, so he's no spring chicken either. But these two guys, this is the trilogy. First fight, Stipe Miocic gets caught, close clinch, a couple big shots by DC in the first round, drops him. Miocic comes back in the second fight. But Miocic, I don't think, was winning any rounds up until the fourth when he caught DC and pummeled him and finished him off in the second fight. I'll be honest, I watched both fights, first two fights this morning. I don't think DC was winning either of those fights. You could disagree with me. I definitely would love to hear what people think about that. But I think DC was winning that whole fight and then got caught. On the outside, Miocic showed his strength, his power, and landed some heavy shots. And DC dropped. Very similar to the third round tonight. DC got caught and dropped. Now, I had the fight going DC round one. I think the big takedown was crucial. After round one, I had DC up to 10, so it's 10-9 after round one. I thought DC controlled it. He landed a little bit more shots. If not, I don't know what the count was on throughout the whole fight. I know Stipe Miocic took over in the second, third, and fourth round, and it was much different. Or second, third at least. The distance between strikes was much greater in Miocic's favor. But round one, if you go and read it, go on MyMMAnews.com, check out my recap. I did round by round recap while all the fight's taking place. So I'm typing this as the fight's going on. So it's not like I watched it and then like, hey, let me type this real quick. I'm typing as it's going. So I threw it together, and I thought DC, that big takedown, and then he landed some big shots. I thought that was enough. And he even struck Miocic, I believe it was in the first round, where it caught him, and it looked like he was going to drop him. It looked like Miocic was out for a second, woke back up against the fence, and DC didn't pounce. He was patient. But Miocic caught back on, was able to get back in there. Round one, I'm giving the DC all the way 10-9. Then you rolled it round two, and Stipe Miocic picked it up. He picked up the pace. He landed a lot more strikes, a lot more shots, pushed the pressure. DC tried to work that jab, but Miocic landed some massive rights, and that stumbled DC and pressured him to the forced defense. And then, I believe the knockdown was the second round. I could be wrong. Let me just go back and look at the recap as I'm writing it. But yeah, so I might have made a mistake. So I didn't meant the second round, not the third round. So in the second round is when Stipe catches DC, drops him to the canvas against the cage, and starts pummeling him. DC gets saved by the bell. Saved by the bell. Because if there's probably 30 more seconds left on this clock, 20 more seconds, Miocic is ending it right in the second round. Because he's on him full mount, pinning his hands. DC's trying to grab his hands. DC's on his butt, back against the cage, and Miocic is pummeling him. So the bell rings, fight ends the second round. DC, I have him dropping the round 10-8. Miocic is up 10-8, 1 round apiece. Third round comes in. Miocic continue. He's pushing the pressure. He's landing more shots, pushing DC against the cage, the clinch. Miocic just had more strikes, landed more strikes, was more active. I gave him the round as well, 10-9. So we got 2-1 Miocic. DC won, Miocic second and third round. Fourth round, DC climbs back strong. I don't know if you heard John Anik saying how, or Joe Rogan was talking about how DC likes to take off round 3. It's just his thing. He takes off round 3 right before championship rounds. Think about it. DC's fought and he's been defending his title for quite some time now, whether it's light heavyweight or heavyweight. The guy's been, the last handful of fights have been 5-round fights, or at least he's been training for 5-round fights. Now, I know everyone says they train for 5-round fights, whether it's amateur fighters or professional fighters. But when you're in there and you athlete of his caliber, he's prepared for 5 rounds. But fourth round, DC looks strong, comes back, lands a lot of big strikes, catches Miocic a few times, pushed the pace, and I thought DC just got the better of him in the exchanges. And I had to give him the round, so it's 10-9 Cormier. So now it's 2 rounds apiece. Now we're entering the championship round, the final round, the whole shebang. And Stipe Miocic put it on. Like, he showed he was a champion. He showed his endurance. DC looked fatigued in the 5th round. Miocic got the better of him. Got those double underhooks. If you saw in the post-fight interview with Megan Olivey. I'm sorry, I always pronounce her name wrong. But Megan, and he said he got double underhooks on him, and that's something he didn't do in the first 2 fights, and that's something that he had struggled with. And Miocic pressured him against the cage, pushed him back. There was a couple times where DC clinched with him and tried to work him against the cage, and Miocic was able to spin him, put his back on the cage, and that was that. Miocic controlled the fight. He did a great job with the underhook and pushing him backwards with his hand, stretching him out so DC couldn't use his shortened distance. Miocic used his reach and got him away from his body and his head, pushing him away. So it was interesting. It was a great fight by these two. They went back and forth. Definitely the, one of the guys from the MyMMAnews.com asked whoever wins this fight, are they the GOAT of the heavyweight division? And I said, that's a good hot take. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it. After rewatching the first 2 fights and looking at all their, credentials, they both cleared out the division of the heavyweight. Miocic is the longest reigning champion of the UFC or the heavyweight division. You have DC, who's a double division champion, takes down the champion to win the title, and then he's a double champ. But I think Miocic is the greatest heavyweight of all time. And, everyone's going to bitch about that eye poke. That was a nasty eye poke, which DC, hopefully he's okay. And we don't know whether he's planning on retire, what his thoughts are, because, he's big loss. But says he has a tear in his eye. So this might be the end of DC in his career, which sucks because the guy's a phenomenal person, let alone athlete. And like when he lifted him in the I think it was the second fight, it just shows you the strength and conditioning. And even watching him in this fight in the first round, when he gets the takedown and scoots behind him, like he looks like a little guy doing that. And he's a big guy weighing 230 something, 240 something, and he's scooting around another 230 pounder like it's nothing. So DC's a phenomenal athlete, former Olympic wrestler. But I don't think that eye poke played a big deal. I think Cormier was already on the losing end of this fight. Let's be honest, he had a better round in the 4th after the eye poke. And then Miocic was able to continue in the fifth, but Miocic got poked in the eye by DC in all three fights. First and second fight, he got poked in the eye. They had to take a timeout. In this fight, he got poked in the eye. Now, the ref didn't see it against DC. Like, it was a nasty poke when they showed the replay, but the ref didn't see it. Goddard didn't see it. It happens. It doesn't always get caught on camera. I mean, at least caught by the referee while the action's going on. The ref's moving too. You got to remember that. These are great refs. I love how Dan Hardy and everyone gets mad at Herb Dean and the refs. They had Herb Dean, Dan Migliotta, Goddard. There were some great referees tonight reffing these fights, and I thought they all did a great job on every fight. I thought the refs did a good job judging. I don't think there was any fight that was questionable and the scoring was off or outrageous. So, yeah, you can't get too mad about the scores or anything with the eye poke. I know everyone's commenting on my stuff, and then my friends are like, oh, the eye poke of doom. You know what? DC poked him in all three fights, including this one. Earlier in the fight, he got Miocic before Miocic caught him by mistake. Neither one were intentional. They're all four eye pokes, and all three fights were unintentional. They were accidents. It happens. But you know what? It's part of the game. It's like football when you get hurt and you have to put another guy in, and then everyone's like, "Oh, we lost because we're playing with the second string or the third string." You know what? You only have to beat the guy who's on the field, beat the team that's on the field. So at the end of the day, I don't get too upset about that. I have in the past, but you know what? Thinking about it, and I thought DC was going to win this fight, and to be honest, I didn't care who won. I'm a big fan of both guys. I think they're both great guys, but I think Miocic just did way too much. He's the greatest of all time heavyweight in the UFC, heavyweight of all time. Yeah. So that's my thoughts, my recap on tonight's fights. Go to mymmanews.com. Check out my recap. You could check out my little blog I wrote real quick on my new website that I just posted, so make sure you go check out that. Carol's Corner MMA Podcast. Go to ccmmapodcast.com to check out the latest episodes. There's a lot more content that's about to be uploaded and dumped on. I just launched it tonight at 8 p.m. Pretty pumped about it. I got a gallery. I'm going to put tons of photos. I have thousands of photos and videos from all events I've gone to. I'm going to try and get them all up there. I got that. I got the podcast episodes that will be going up every week, and the old ones connecting to my YouTube channel. So go to the YouTube channel if you want to check it out. JIBLITZ77. That's Giblet77 to check out some great fights from the past, from local Long Island promotions, upstate Cage Wars, Jackhammer promotions here on Long Island, Triton Fights, ACC in Westchester. And then I got some photos and stuff from MSG, the ring masters, the boxing, which used to be Golden Gloves. Lots of great stuff. PFL, Bellator. Check it out. ccmmapodcast.com. I got a couple sponsors, Diamond MMA. Click them. Check it out. Their cups and other protection for MMA fighters, as well as CBD product by PureSpectrumCBD.com. Click them. Diamond MMA, you get 10% off anything you purchase. Use my code CCMMA, as well as PureSpectrumCBD.com. You get my other sponsor. You get 10% off by using my code CCMMA as well. So check it out. Go get some products. Use the code, 10% off in your favor. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a king of the heavyweight division. I'm looking forward to see where we're going. A lot of questions now. Are they going to keep spraying the cage? That's one. Two, is Dan Cormier going to retire? Dana White would not mention he was going to let DC talk about it. He didn't want to get into it. He just said DC went to the hospital. Eye tear, we know about. Hopefully he's okay. We're going to find out whether or not he's coming back. Three, Stipe Miocic. Who's he fighting next? Francis Ngannou wants to get him. You got John Jones, who mentioned he wants to get in there. But Dana White sounds like he's going to keep Francis Ngannou, who's the next in line to fight Miocic. But Miocic wants some family time. So how long does he want family time? How long until he gets back in there? And some of these guys, like to take some time off, and totally understandable. COVID virus is going on. He's preparing for this fight. He's taking some time off. He's fought DC the last 3 years. It's the only opponent he's had for the last 3 years. So hopefully we'll see him get back in there. But these are my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Go check out Carol's Corner MMA podcast on YouTube. Go to my website, ccmmapodcast.com, live as of 8 p.m. today, Saturday, August 15th. Check it out. This is the UFC 252 recap. You got a new still the champion, and you got Sean O'Malley, falls to Vera. That is the co-main and main event recap. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy. Stay away from anyone without a mask. Wear a mask. This is the COVID virus pandemic edition of UFC 252. Stay healthy, and we're out.